This week we watched a radical killer fish movie from Canada.
Cowabunga, dude. Radical.
He'll eat you and your shorts.
Eat pants.
We watched Psycho Pike.
Bart Simpson. I don't know. What else happened in the 90s? What else even happened that decade? That's fine. I think that's an intro. We're good.
Stabby Stabby.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Stabby Stabby. I'm one of your hosts, Dan, and today I'm drinking an Irish-style dry stout called Headmaster's Ritual from Round Guys Brewing. It's delicious. It's like 4.5%. It's an all-day drinker. I'm really enjoying it. Greg, how are you doing?
Hey, you know what? I'm doing all right. Feeling a little under the weather, but still drinking a Rebel Hill Scratch the Surface Pale Ale. It is one of my favorite local beers, so gonna be enjoying that. Hey, Eric, what's up with you?
Hey, guys. I'm drinking a double dry hop Technicolor Splendor from Tired Hands. Actually, I already drank that. I am on to a Zombie Dust from Three Floyds. But
Jesus.
That was my pre-game drink. That was the Tired Hands.
Those are good beers. Scratch the Surface, I think, might be one of Pennsylvania's best pale ales. Or maybe the best pale ale. That shit's so good.
Yeah.
Dan, is the beer you're drinking? Did you do the artwork for that bad boy?
Yeah, I did. It was really fun to work on.
Hey, he also did the artwork for Scratch the Surface.
Are you serious? Oh, yeah, that's right.
I forgot about that. I forgot I did that. Yeah. Yeah, Dan, wow, so hey.
Dan is our resident beer illustrator, and he's phenomenal. So anybody interested, check his artwork out because it's fantastic.
Please keep going. No, in more detail.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to pop some of your labels up on the Instagram. Follow us on Stabby Pod.
Hey, there we go. Eric, come over here and sit on my lap and tell me these stories. Greg, we watched Psycho Pike this week. Who brought up Psycho Pike? Why did we watch this movie?
I brought up Psycho Pike. I brought it to the table on the last mini episode solely because I didn't think you guys would choose to watch it.
What the name like that?
Of course we jumped on the most ridiculous one.
Why wouldn't we?
I had watched it, and I didn't remember it being good. I don't remember enjoying it when I watched it the first time.
Well, spoiler alert.
That's the same
I'm
with
not saying
me,
I enjoyed it this time. I'm just saying I brought a movie that I didn't know if it would be interesting or not.
I had watched it also, Greg. I think we might have heard it from like Shockwave's podcast or somewhere. We both kind of were turned on at the same time. I can't remember where, but I thought I had fast forwarded through half of it, but I didn't. I remembered like once I rewatched it, I was like, oh no, I did watch this whole thing. But I don't want to get into my opinion just yet. But
yeah, I'm trying to hold my opinion until we actually talk about the movie.
Well, just loosely based on what you just said, Eric, I'm not surprised somebody watching this would think they just missed half of it. That does not surprise me at all.
Right. I was
that makes sense.
I was adamant about fast forwarding through half of it, and then as I was watching it, I was like, no, I watched this.
Honestly, the movie moves at a good clip. Like, I don't really think there's a lot of boring parts in like parts where nothing's happening. Yeah.
It's pretty good. Oh, and maybe up front, I'll say, did you guys all you both watch this on the YouTube full movie thing, right?
Yep.
Yes.
It's the only place I can find it.
Yeah, I think it's the only place that exists at this point. It's the shittiest possible transfer. Like it's a VHS recording of a VHS recording and then transferred to Betamax, and then somebody filmed it on their iPod video. It looks terrible, but somehow that added to the charm.
Yeah, it was
pretty good.
It was very blocky in parts and pixelated and almost like the tape was waving, wavy.
Yeah,
apparently
there's
a
screener copy as well, which you know because it comes up about every 3 minutes in the movie. But yeah, we'll take what we can get.
Yeah, apparently there's an uncut negative that's out there, but doesn't look like anybody's had the guts to pick it up yet. So seems like something Vinegar Syndrome or one of those labels would put out eventually.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And all right, I don't want to spoil anything, but I got thoughts on that. Yeah.
Now, okay. I'll say I think we might have questions for Eric. Eric is our resident fisherman.
Yeah.
So I think I will have some questions about catching fish.
Oh,
And
nice.
I want to know if you have a copy of the Angler's Bible.
I don't. I have the satanic Bible, but not the English Bible.
The Angronomicon?
It's a combo. It's
Yeah, that's it.
how to raise dead pike from the
Nice. From All right. Well, hey Greg, give me that plot, baby.
Now let's get to the plot.
Psycho Pike from 1992 opens on a kind of a bearded fat guy in a boat all by himself. I felt attacked because unfortunately I look very much like that man in the boat. And then we get a bunch of, as we do in aquatic sea monster movies, you get a lot of underwater fish point of view footage. And the guy is fishing off the boat, and he catches something, starts reeling it in, and it's just a severed hand.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So he pulls that up, and then he ends up falling in the water, and you can kind of see him splashing about, and he's under and pops back up, and he's just fully decapitated.
With like blood shooting out the open hole, neck hole.
Yeah. As would happen, I would assume, if
That's right.
if a monster bit your head off.
Arms still flailing, like somehow treading water.
Yeah, maybe it's like a chicken when its head gets cut off.
Oh,
It
that
just
makes sense.
The body keeps going for a little
it's
bit.
nerve
So you're saying
endings.
fat bearded men are like chickens with their heads cut off.
That's what
if
I've
you
always
cut
said.
off their heads.
Just like my mom always said.
Greg, if you don't trim that beard off, you're gonna get your head chopped off. I want to meet that man.
Yeah. So our introduction to Psycho Pike is just a bearded fat fisherman getting his head bit off in the water, and then bam, title screen, and some awesome 90s like alt rock comes in with about 5 minutes of footage of traffic.
They used that whole song.
Yep. Now I dug the song. I
too.
liked it.
Far from the ocean, way off the road, way deep down, deep below here, there's nobody home. And they're all in heaven, just where they should be. Watch it, me entangle some folks in the weeds. I know I should have told.
Lyrics were great. Something about weeds. We'd never meet each other alone in the weeds, or something. Like they tried to make it, relate to the movie.
Yeah. And I like that, and I appreciate that.
There was another major musical number where the lyrics were both not about what was happening, but then the chorus hook was exactly what was happening.
Yeah. It's later in the movie, and it's basically like, "Why are we alone together?"
Yeah,
That one?
Yeah, that's
when
the
they're
one.
Driving to
Yeah, I love the music in this movie. It was so good.
Oh, yeah.
It is. By the way, when you say it smashes to a title sequence, and you hear, like, it's practically Saved by the Bell. The title sequence. It's the most '90s shit ever. Like neon, squiggly shapes, like squealing rock guitar. It's the best. It's the intro title scene from a Goofy movie. It's exactly that style. It's great.
Goofy. Literally like Disney's Goofy movie.
Yes, from a Goofy movie.
I don't remember squiggly stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's very 90s.
You talking about
Yeah.
the font style, or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I assume this drive, this 5-minute traffic situation is basically just saying, hey, we got a bunch of city folk coming out to the country on a vacation. So that kind of takes care of that. We are introduced to, in the Jeep, Reg, Rhonda, Tim, and Dara, who are our kind of 4 main characters. Dara and Tim are dating, and Reg and Rhonda are dating. But we do find out later in the movie that Rhonda is Tim's ex.
Oh yeah,
Oh man,
saucy.
causes problems.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Nope.
It causes exactly the problems you think they would cause.
Yeah, they would not still be friends in real life.
Oh, and before anybody listening asks, yes, all 4 characters are wearing comically small 90s sunglasses.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, so they're driving to the lake, and it's Lake Shippagoo. And at some point in the drive, the girls are just kind of sticking their feet
Yeah, what the fuck was
in the
that?
guys' faces, and they're like kissing the feet. That's right. Yeah, like Dan mentioned off recording that there was a lot of feet in this movie, and it never dawned on me until I just mentioned that sentence. Like, oh yeah, it just literally just starts with just feet.
I have that as a note too. I have red Jeep in the city, cows, Rhonda doing correspondence work, putting feet in boys' faces.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like pre-podcast driving montages. They had like find ways to entertain themselves, and apparently one of those ways was sucking each other's toes from the back seat. Really weird.
And doing correspondence courses. Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
It's like
you know?
we're carefree, we have no shoes on, and
But then,
yeah, car.
We're young with no shoes on. We're living the life.
All these characters, like they are coded as being like loose and carefree, but then they are all the most stodgy, uptight, like
Yeah.
emotionally wound up. Yeah, they're
You're
not
right.
carefree.
Yeah.
But they are ripping on Tim, who apparently is not a very good fisherman, but now he's reading the Angler Bible.
That's it. You got it.
And yeah, it took me a couple tries.
Did he though?
I don't know. Is it?
It's Angler.
Yeah, angler. You got it. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
busting your stones.
Angler Bible.
What's that?
The Bible.
Since when did the Bible have photos?
This isn't just any old Bible. This is the angling Bible. Read this and your chances of hooking a lunker are guaranteed to improve.
You mean you might actually catch a fish this summer? That'll be a change.
It's not knowing if you'll catch something that makes it fun.
Tim's the king of fun.
You see, Greg and I are experienced fishers, and we're here to walk Eric through like how to pronounce these things. So it's called a lure and angler, Eric, in case you're wondering.
I like that you said we're experienced fishers.
Yes.
Yeah,
Isn't that what it is?
It shows that that's accurate.
We're fishers
Fishers of men.
of men.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
But Tim does comment about things that he's reading, and I guess the lake that they're going to is full of pike. Like it's a good pike place to fish. And he says that pike can grow up to 60 pounds, which to me, I have no idea about anything with fish. I don't even eat fish, but 60 pounds seems like a big pike.
Yeah, it seems
Eric?
like a pretty big fish. I'd be nervous about that.
I mean, I know fish get bigger than that, but like,
Yeah, I mean,
for a pike.
it is. It's a freshwater fish, right? So we're not, and I think the record's around 55 pounds, but they have
Holy shit.
like the one that's actually been verified, but they've got 60, 65 that they get up to. So yeah, and then there's muskie that get even bigger, and they eat like baby ducks and stuff. But that's a whole different. That's also freshwater fish. But yeah, pike are cool, man. They're like little.
They look gnarly.
They're awesome. They're like freshwater barracuda. They're ambush predators, so they just get up to like wicked speeds really fast. So I do a fishing trip with my dad and my friends in Canada annually, and we have one lake that we fish that there's a lot of pike, and they're so much fun to catch. If you miss a strike and you just cast back in, they'll hit it immediately again. They've jumped in our canoes before. They're not good. They don't hurt people. I don't know if they ever have. They have like little tiny spiky teeth that you don't want to mess with, but they're not going to like bite humans. They're probably more afraid of you than anything else. But
Now,
they're a cool fish.
I heard they'll latch right onto your brow.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Now this movie is filmed in Canada, so like, is this exactly what you experience?
Yeah, we fish in Ontario. So I actually looked on Google Maps to find out where this is filmed. It's a pretty good distance. It's like it's more northern than where we go. It's about 5 hours away, but it's still Ontario, and there's 1,000 freaking lakes all over there, and there's northern pike all over the place. So,
While we're talking about the setting for this, I did read that this is an interesting example of a like Canucksploitation, these like really cheaply, quickly made Canadian exploitation movies, where the movie is filmed in a Canadian town and also set in a Canadian town, and that usually doesn't happen. So it's actually kind of rare in a exploitation to be both filmed and set in the same Canadian spot.
That's
Pretty cool.
awesome. I like that
Yeah.
they just went all in. That's great.
Yeah, not just trying to like cosplay an American city or something like that.
Right. They
Pretty
throw
good.
like a
Yeah.
flag up in the background or something, you know.
So hey Canada, great job. This movie's your fault. Good work.
So they're driving into Lake Shippigoo, and they do stop to get gas at our fifth main character. He's comes and goes a lot, and you're introduced to him really early in this movie. Willie T, our one-eyed gas station owner, and I can't decide if I love this character or absolutely hate this character. Everything about like the guy who's playing him either does it amazingly or the worst. He makes the worst decisions for like how he speaks and just acts and everything. It's just really, really weird.
I felt the same way at first. I was like, this guy, but then I kind of grew to love Willie T. I don't know why. And I read somewhere online, it was like, I think it was reading like the Letterboxd reviews or something, and someone compared him to Tim Blake Nelson.
I could see that.
And once they did that, I was like, I kind of like Willie T a lot now.
Wait,
like,
who's Tim Blake Wilson?
He's a character actor. He's looks like him. He sounds like him. He's been in a lot of Coen Brothers stuff.
Yeah, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He's one of the guys.
Yes.
I think he turns into a frog.
I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that now. Yeah.
Yeah, so he basically kind of tells them...
Good fishing on Shippigoo. Used to be a lot more people come here for the fishing. Ever since they reopened that lumber mill, they've been staying away. Townsfolk got to decide if they want the benefits from the tourism or that mill. Well, no use bitching about it.
He tells him about how he lost his eye to a pike.
Crazy thing jumped right out of the lake and grabbed me. Clamped right onto my brow. I started whipping my head round back and forth trying to shake the mother loose. It was like a vice grip or something. Man, did it hurt. It had teeth like well, damned sharp. I'm telling you, I saw my life flash before my eyes.
And he says that the fish are just getting stronger and stronger. And that was interesting. And I like that the kind of our four main characters are kind of debate whether like Willie T's story about how he lost his eye was real or not.
Yeah, I like that too. And actually, there's a moment in that exchange where they're like, "Do you think he was telling the truth?" And the one guy throws out this like, all these inbred idiots make up lies. Like they're what was that line he used? Like after
Bullshitting 101. Then they advanced to basket weaving.
Which is such a like 90s like yuppie making fun of country folk throwback line. This whole movie is all right, we'll get into it. This whole movie is 1990s pop culture attitude like condensed into an hour and a half. It's quite something. It's great.
I didn't think about this until now, but I really like the fact that maybe Willie T was just screwing with them because he knew they were city folks, and he was like, changing his how he lost his eye, like origin story, how like the Joker would change his origin story each time, and he just
Chris Nolan stole that from Psycho for the Dark Knight.
Yeah, I think that's in the commentary of Dark Knight. Yeah.
Oh, and like props to the filmmakers. The using that gas station and the like fake pike hanging from the thing from the like when they pull up, there's gas station pumps and there's like this weird arch made out of wood, and hanging from it is, according to Willie T, the very pike that stole his eye. Like he killed it and stuffed it, and it hangs it from this thing outside. And I thought that was a clever way to show audiences what the hell a pike is. Yeah. Without having to have a scene with a scientist explaining it or something like that. Like, there it is. It's hanging there. That's what it looks like. That's what the monster is going to look like. And you're done. Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a cool tease. And they also had the lure, like, hanging from its mouth, which is, like, the thing you do when you mount a fish. You hang the lure from it, if it's, like, a trophy.
Nice.
Very detailed.
So, ultimately, they end up leaving Willie T's after getting gas. And, They're driving to their cottage that they're staying at. I think this is like a summer vacation. Like they're going to be there all summer. And Reg, I don't actually know what his job per se is, or really necessarily what the reason is he's doing this, but he's collecting water samples and sending them back to the city or the state or something to determine whether the lake is getting polluted by the mill.
So what exactly do you have to do?
Go to different parts of the lake and fill these containers with water samples and mark the locations. I send them back to the city to be analyzed, and they mail back the results. Then I compile the information and drop some fancy charts. Pretty simple.
We find out some more about that as later, but that's what he's doing. Everybody else is kind of there just on vacation, and I forget where Dara and Reg were, but at one point, Rhonda and Tim are talking along the kind of the lake side, and the sheriff comes up and starts telling them about, like, oh, you know, we just want to let you know we had a missing person. His name is Duffy. He's the guy at the very beginning of the movie, and they're saying, like, you know, he was fishing. Now we can't find him. His boat's nowhere to be found. And Tim is basically like, oh, well, did you dredge the lake? And the sheriff is just like, no, the lake is too big. We're not going to do that. Like, why do you think we should dredge the lake? Do you know anything about this? Like, just being shitty.
Say, are you trying to tell me my job? You think you can ride in here to Shipagoo with your big city ways and solve all of my problems?
He totally overreacts. It reminded me of, like, something out of, like, Twin Peaks. Like, he's all very nice and, like, welcome to our small country, you know.
Yes.
And then he's like, you don't know shit. I'll keep my eyes on you. You think you can come from the big city? Like, he just turned into a different character. I kind of like that. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
I thought the same thing. And we find out later it pays off. Yeah.
Yep.
Some of the choices here, though, this specific one, I have no idea. I laughed so hard. But kind of right before he leaves, he says, like, well, I'm going to keep my eye on you, and turns around and starts walking away, and you just hear him fart.
I'll keep my eyes on you.
Yeah.
The longest comedy farts. Yep.
And there's a fart
So
from him
strange.
later, too. Yeah, he farts multiple. His character, part of his personality is he farts a lot.
It was so unnecessary. It just reminded me of, like, the mud monsters and Spookies, where they just keep farting for no reason.
Like they mixed in the fart sound effect just because it felt like that 90s random humor. But every time there's a funny bit in this, it's not built up to. It's just a movie's happening and then a random funny thing happens. And it's like the director's like, just throw something in there. Yeah, make that do that. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that was my question. Yeah, that was my question. Like, is this intentionally, which I think it probably is, did the filmmakers think that this was a comedy horror?
I really think they were influenced by, like, Tarantino. I really think they were influenced by Tarantino.
I mean, if you're infusing fart sounds randomly, you must think that it's a comedy, right? Like, you're not taking yourself too seriously, but yeah.
Well, and we'll get into the Hong Konger investors, but yeah, there's some, like, weird comedy bits in this that just feel so out of place, but then have, like, really traumatic payoffs. So, yeah.
I also, I don't know if it's the right time, so cut me off if it's not, but I did look up the actors, and Reg, at least, has been in a couple things, at least according to IMDb. It's mostly, like, Canadian stuff, TV movies, TV series. He's apparently uncredited in, like, Rocky IV. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
He's probably, like, in the background or something. But the one that's really surprised me was he's uncredited as Kate's dad in The Blackcoat's Daughter, which is a pretty recent cool horror movie. And I was like, really? So I haven't verified that, but I mean, it's on IMDb, but if anybody
Oh, no shit,
is
that
interested,
is him. I can picture him.
Really?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that movie. Yeah, I saw that movie like 3 times.
So I thought that was pretty wicked. It's an actual horror film, you know, so.
He did a good job in that movie, too.
I got to rewatch. Yeah, I got to rewatch it.
Yeah. That's a really good one.
We recommend watching The Blackcoat's Daughter.
In the previous scene, we heard the city slicker yuppies come in and they kind of shit talk at Willie T and they make fun of him for being inbred. And then they meet a local who then turns around and yells at them and accuses them of being city slickers who just want to stick their nose in other people's business. And like these two scenes back to back just set you up for everybody in this movie is an asshole. Everyone in this movie is a jerk who's only out for themselves, and there are no good guys. Everybody's evil. And it's the 90s.
Yeah, dude.
It totally makes sense. They're all mean.
Yeah, I could see that. It's hard to get behind anybody. Although one of the girl characters is sort of redeeming, right? Or
not really.
No, I think maybe they all are shitty.
I assume you're talking about Dara.
Yeah. We'll get into.
Well, Dara actually, she might be the closest thing to like innocent because she doesn't have really any. Well, we'll get there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna set that up now because that's total. After this scene, I watched this movie from like all these people are assholes. None of them are redeemable. They're all shitty.
Well, yeah, you want somebody to root for. It's tough when you don't have anybody to root for.
I guess the fish. The fish is the redeeming, the purifying.
Oh,
element.
yeah. Kill everybody.
I love you, Psycho Pike.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of assholes,
nice.
It's now nighttime, and you see all of our characters just running butt naked into the lake, and they're going skinny dipping.
Look at that segue.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad it worked out.
Now that we talked about it, it's not as smooth.
No, jokes are better when you explain them. That's what I was always told. So when they're in the water, they're having fun, but they're hearing a lot of like big splashes going on. You don't see anything, but they hear it, and eventually they're really not in the water all that long. They get out and they go to bed. Reg is laying in bed with Rhonda, and he's trying to make moves on her, and she's not having it. And you just hear Tim and Dara in the other room, and they are just going at it very loudly.
This is before you know that the other two were broken up, right? And that's why she's like not in the mood.
Yeah, we have no idea. We have no idea yet. Yeah.
So Reg kind of gets rejected by Rhonda. Yeah, and like you said, we kind of figure out that she's not into it because she hears her ex-boyfriend. Now, she broke up with him, but she hears her ex-boyfriend banging in the other room. Or maybe she's just a prude. We don't know. Doesn't really matter at this point.
Maybe she has a headache. I don't know. She's allowed to not
she's
bang.
Sleepy.
Yeah.
It's now the morning, and Reg is going to go mail off his samples. And I forgot to mention earlier that Willie T's gas station is not just the gas station and like mechanic and convenience store. It's also the town post office.
That's right.
Willie T is just all around. He's just running businesses. So that's where he kind of goes to mail things. And in the scene, there's a little bit of like sexual tension between Reg and Dara that's introduced. Nothing happens, but you can kind of feel something. And I think it's Dara is looking out the window, and there's like a dog just kind of on the banks of the lake, and she's yelling for Dara to come look at the dog. Meanwhile, when she's not looking away, the dog gets attacked by the Psycho Pike and is killed, which kind of a big deal, I think, in movies when the dog gets killed.
Yep.
Not so much in this movie.
It isn't here, and it's been a week since I watched this, so correct me if I'm wrong. So what's her name? Dara and Reg are banging again, and you can hear their audio of them banging. Yes. And Tim and Dara. Okay, all right. And as they climax, that's when the dog gets bit in the throat by the Pike, which is pretty effective. I mean, you don't see anything, but you hear their audio like come through, which is kind of cool.
It's like the opposite of that scene in Gums where they're banging and the dogs are banging, but you hear the people.
Yeah,
like the audio of the people.
The opposite of that.
That is a film reference that one or two people that ever listen to this episode will understand. You know that one part in Gums.
The Jaws
porn that we watched in a room full of like 400 other sweaty men.
There is I just mentioned real quick, there's a radio station in the background throughout this whole movie, and it's actually pretty funny. Yeah. So before the dog scene, one of the lines is like, just released new music on 8-track and swamp music for lovers, which I thought was pretty great. And they mentioned like liverwurst later on, and in the credits they call out the radio station, so it was clearly like done on purpose. So Thought that was kind of cool.
I think as
Nice.
in the beginning of the movie, as they pull up to the gas station to meet Willie T for the first time, they hear a commercial for Willie T's gas station, and I think he even mentions like, "We'll fill your car, we'll mail your package, we'll blah blah blah." Like he lists all the things he ends up doing in the
That's
movie.
cool.
If I remember right.
That's really cool.
This movie did do a lot of things well.
Yeah, it did. Totally did.
Now that I think about it.
Spoiler alert, I really enjoyed myself in this movie. This movie is pretty fun.
Let's not spoil it.
Same. Yeah.
So Reg, after he kind of mails his stuff, he goes to a phone booth, which is nice to see outside of Doctor Who, and he calls his uncle, who is the owner of the mill, and is basically saying like, hey, we got some tests back, the lake is contaminated. He basically says, like, it's gonna get really bad, and the uncle says, well, go ahead and just fake the samples, and that'll give me time to get some money to redo our equipment, and then the lake will go back to normal, probably. I promise, maybe. So he does convince.
Yeah, that's it.
It was very like, well, you could do it.
You have to understand, we have to let the lake get a little bit worse before we have the money to make it a whole lot better. I hope you're with me on this.
Sure thing, Uncle Slats.
But he basically convinces Reg that, hey, like my son, who normally would take over the business, decided to leave and go be a ballet dancer. And you're gonna, when I retire, I want you to take over. So now he has incentive to kind of fake it and let the mill do whatever it's doing that's hurting. They don't really go into any detail, and I don't know much about mills, so but it is hurting the lake. So we do see Reg kind of pull off into the woods, and he goes to a like a stream or like waterfall, and fill up the bottles there. But he is told to like continue taking the samples, just like dump them and swap it out with clean water, and so we don't get caught. So that's what he's doing, and that's kind of the subplot of the movie, that Reg is allowing this lake to be contaminated, which is causing, we assume is causing this mutant fish.
I mean, subplot. I feel like they lean more on the whole Reg Lake subterfuge thing than even the fish horror thing. We spend way more time with him, like, wrestling with whether or not he should be doing this and trying to justify it to all the people around him, or like throughout the movie who figure out what he's doing. He has to like explain to them, no, like really the money will be worth it, and in the long run maybe the lake will be fine. Like it's almost if it was better done, a character drama about a guy choosing like between the future of this community and his own future, and is the money worth it? But then the sheriff farts and a fish eats somebody.
I would agree.
It's great.
Yeah, I would agree.
I love this movie.
Yeah, I love this. We'll get into the reviews and stuff later, but I wanted more Psycho Pike. I wanted like kids on like skiing getting attacked. I wanted like somebody like from a rope swing and it jumps and eats them in the air. Like I wanted a ton of that, and it was more like, oh, my samples are dirty and they need to be clean, but I did think what was cool was when they showed his uncle, which I thought was just his boss at first. You find out it's his uncle. The way it's filmed is a totally different style. It's like a film noir. It's like all like, almost black and white, or like brown and like smoky. And I was like, nice, man. It was like a cool, little nod to, just make it feel different than the other movie.
Yeah, he's got like a half-lit face.
Yeah.
Like,
real moody.
It's cool.
I mean, they do not shortcut coding him as the villain.
Right. That's right.
The uncle's the bad guy.
Yeah, you just needed a music cue, like, dun, dun, dun.
He's chomping a cigar. Yeah, twirling a mustache, chomping a cigar. It actually kind of looks like he works like inside of an old bell or like an old like clock tower or something.
Right.
It's great.
So after Reg kind of fakes the samples with that kind of spring water, he gets back to the house and goes fishing with Tim, and they're talking on the boat. This is kind of when you find out that Reg is dating Rhonda, who broke up with Tim, and Tim's still not really over that, and he's not very happy about
Understandable.
it. and Reg basically goes like, I don't want to hear this anymore. Like, she's with me. You guys didn't work out. You know, I'm tired of talking about this. Then Tim catches a fish, and as he reels it in, he finds out that it's dead already. And Eric, this is my first question. How do you catch a dead fish?
I had this in my notes too, because I thought I was being clever. I was like, this fish is dead. Like, it was like a B movie type, thing. Like, they're going to shake all the dead fish and pretend they're all alive. But then they address it head on, and they're like, no, these fish are dead. So the only thing I can think of to give it some credibility is that when the fish first strikes the lure, they're alive, but because the lake is so contaminated and they're so weak, that the act of fighting the fish kills them. So by the time you bring them to the boat, they're dead. And that does happen, like, especially in like a lot of saltwater fishing. If you fight a fish for hours or whatever, you'll pull it up and it can die before you actually get it in. But so that's the only thing I was thinking, is maybe it was alive when it first hit, but then by the time you get it to the boat, they're so weak they die. So,
all right, well that makes sense actually. That helps that for me. So he kind of pulls in a fish, and he's like, well, it's not very big, but let's go show the girls. Like, he's very proud of catching this dead fish. And they get back to the dock, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna gut it and fillet it, and we're gonna cook it for dinner. And Reg is like, I wouldn't really eat that. Like, he knows that the lake is contaminated, but he basically is like, well, Pike is full of bones, like, it's not good eating. But Tim's been reading the Angler Bible, so he knows how to cut up the pike to reduce the amount of bones you get. So he and Rhonda decide, like, well, we're gonna eat that fish. Let's go set up the barbecue. And Reg has more samples to mail, so he and Dara drive off to Willie T's post office gas station.
They drive off to be alone together.
Yeah, and this is when the song we mentioned earlier kind of comes in, and it's just another rockin' 90s dude, man. I like it a lot.
Something about the 1990s in like that really washed out VHS green grass in that red 90s like Jeep Wrangler Sahara edition that they're driving around in. Just hit the spot. Love it.
Yeah, and the refrain is, why do we stink like fish, or something like that. It's totally on the nose. It's great.
Yeah, it's really good. And now, kind of as that scene kind of wraps up and they're driving, we don't quite get to the gas station yet, because we have an introduction to some new characters that are just for this one scene, where it's kind of like an old guy and a younger guy on a boat just fishing. This is what this movie's about, is fishing. The old guy reels in a fish, and again, it's dead when he gets it there. And I think it's a pike, right?
It's a nice one. It's like a 10-pound.
Yeah,
it's the biggest.
The old man says it's 15.
Oh, 50. You're right. Yeah, it's the biggest one we see in the movie, besides the fake puppet one. Yeah.
What a fish! What a fish!
Nice.
Whoa.
10 pounds.
10 pounds? You're crazy. That's 15 pounds. 15 pounds of throbbing, pulsating pike right there. And he put up a good fight. Fan-bloody-tastic.
But it's great because he's holding it, and he's like, they're taking pictures, and he's just like posing with it. He like puts it on his lap and puts a cigarette in its mouth, and
it's like a shopping mall changing room montage, but a man with his fish.
Yeah, just an old man just happy to have this fish. And as he's doing that, up jumps the Psycho Pike, and it grab onto his arm?
Yeah, it grabs his arm. Yep.
Something, yeah. It grabs onto his arm, and then the younger guy is freaking out as well, and he ends up falling out of the boat. But they both get killed by this fish.
I love that scene. I want to believe those are just local guys that love the fish and catch pike normally, and they're like, hey, we're going to film you for a half day. Can you just, say these couple lines?
Totally.
That one guy's...
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I hope that's true. Because they were great.
Yeah, the one guy's line is like...
Shouldn't smoke. Those damn things will kill you.
I know, but I figure beer has a neutralizing effect. Drink one beer for every 3 smokes. You'll live a built-in just like my grandpappy.
No, it's like I just like it's such a. I don't even think you could write that. It just sounds like something that, like a local would say.
That's just country rationality right there.
That's beautiful.
So after that scene, we do have Reg and Dara get to the gas station, and when they pull up, Willie T is talking to what he calls two Hong Kong businessmen. They have like a helicopter parked in the grass, and basically he says, well, these developers want to come in and buy up all the land because they want to put an amusement park here, and if that's what they're doing, I'm happy to sell because I'll make a ton of money with all the land I have.
Them two boys are from Hong Kong, and they got themselves a pile of money you can only dream about. They're planning to buy up all the land around Shipagoo and build one of them amusement parks.
Really?
Yes, sir. And Willie T stands to make some good money selling off this land.
Ah. The people on the lake will never go for it. They bought land up here to get away from things like that.
In a market economy, money talks.
So yeah, he fills up their car, and as he gives him $5 to fill it up, and he gets it to like 466, 467, 468. Then he goes 469, and he just stares at Dara while he says it. That's like another like 90s thing that just is still continuing to this day.
Yeah, he's like,
but
that'll just about do her, and then he like stares at them. Yeah.
And then he also Reg gives him $5 more to mail his samples.
I think we.
I
think we also find out that the Irish wolfhound that died was Willie T's in that scene. So,
yeah, Willie T
Really
asks them
sad.
if he's seen their dog. Yeah,
And he delivers that line like really heartfelt.
It's been gone a couple of days now. Starting to get worried. Sure miss the varmint.
Oh, fuck. I would miss my dog, too. Oh, damn.
Yeah. And as they drive away, we see somebody else come out of the gas station and come up next to Willie T, and he says something about like, oh, that guy's trouble. And Willie T says, oh, why do you say that? And he goes, that's my cousin. So this is the ballet dancer, and you can kind of, at the way he walks and everything, like I was like, is he dancing?
He's standing there doing like pirouette exercises while he's delivering his lines. But the way he's framed, like the director cuts him off at the hips with the camera angle, so you just see him moving. But, like, only for a moment do you see him, like, doing pirouette exercises. It's so strange how they did that.
I did not pick up on that at all. I totally
watch
missed
that scene again. You will.
My notes were like, who is this random character? But now it makes him.
It's the only time he's in the movie.
Yeah, he pops up.
Now he's
at
in the
movie
end, twice, and kind of a third time.
Yeah.
If you,
but now,
well, that's
a fourth time. Oh, we'll get to that.
Well,
I have some questions as well.
I guess maybe we should introduce an undercurrent in this movie, again, attached to, like, kind of acid, mean 90s pop culture. This movie hates gay people. This movie codes gay people.
Very gay panic.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, something with Willie T that comes in that's played just for a joke, but that you're just like, what?
Yeah.
And the German tourist later too. There's a lot of that gay panic going on. So again, like we said in a previous episode, that's the beauty of these movies. The little time capsule. Go back in time, and be like, we're not those people. That's good.
This movie has such weird things that it does, actually. I forgot to mention, when Reg was on the phone with his uncle the first time, as he pulls up, there's a woman in the phone booth.
Yes.
She gets out and she walks to the side of the road and sits down.
And that's it.
And that's it. But I'll come back to that during his next phone call.
Greg, her lines were like, "No, I haven't met any Indians." Did you pick up on that?
I didn't.
She said, "No, I haven't met any Indians," and then she was like, "Fine, mother, I don't even want a husband." Like, those were her lines, which are
so
weird. So weird. Like somebody wrote that in a script. To me, this feels more 80s than 90s.
Really?
Yeah, just
late 80s, but.
All right. No, I can follow that.
The clothes, the music felt 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt 90s through the whole thing, but all right. Let's fight.
Yeah, so we leave the gas station, and Rhonda and Tim are. It's nighttime now, and Rhonda and Tim are sitting eating the fish that he caught, and they're talking, and I don't really care about the scene. Basically, it was just like, I'm still upset that you broke up with me. Why are you with him? And Tim gets angry and storms off. This is the only scene in this movie that I don't really care about.
The thing I care about in this scene, and I just wrote in my notes, is whoever the shitty girl is, she was like, "You're a hell of a lot better in bed than Reg is." Yeah, I mean, that's pretty important to the plot, you know.
I would have been mad that she was with him, but I would have high-fived her, and then I would have walked away.
Right.
He responds appropriate. I feel like he's the only human that like responds to things the human way. Like he's just emotional and upset through the whole thing, and it's justifiable because his goddamn best friend is banging his girlfriend, his ex, like right in the next room. Like it is weird. It's weird. It would be traumatic.
They're like, well, let's just go on a fishing trip. It'll take care of everything.
They're like, well, they point and laugh.
Yeah, let's go together.
Yeah. I'm gonna make you kiss my foot too.
It won't
we
be
used
weird.
To date. Yeah.
But the only thing I took away from that scene was they ate that dead gnarly fish.
Right,
yes.
So,
yep.
And that comes in to the next scene where they're around a bonfire, just having beers, hanging out, doing nothing. And Rhonda kind of gets up and just walks away, and you just hear her puking in the distance. And Reg is just busting on her. Like, that's his girlfriend. He's just like, can't handle any beers. She's such a lightweight. And she walks back. She's like, I had two. Like, it's not the beers. I'm going to bed. Then he ends up going to bed with her. And Dara is just like, well, I guess I'll go to bed. And the whole time they're sitting there, you see Tim kind of like looking nauseous. And as she walks away, he gets up and just pukes in the fire. So
I love how it's directly in the fire. Like, he's got the entire woods. He's got the lake. And he's like, I'm just going to go right here in the fire. I just project out. I thought it was a great decision. Yeah.
So it's the next morning now, and Tim is fishing off kind of just the dock, and Reg and I think Dara are playing frisbee in the water's edge, and Tim says like,
It even says in the Bible how people will go out in a boat for hours, not have any luck, get back to the dock, take a cast, and whammo, a lunker.
He's fishing, he does catch a fish, and it's another dead fish. And he pulls it up, and he just apparently this fish looked worse than the previous one. It had like lesions on it. It was really stinky.
Well, he describes how bad it is, but it just looks like a dead fish. They didn't put like makeup on a fish. That would have been too much effort. It's just a dead fish. But he's like, look, it's covered in lesions, and the camera shows the fish, and it's just a dead fish.
Doesn't he say like the mill's polluting it? Doesn't he call it out specifically at this point?
So what's in the water?
What?
The tests, what do they say?
Not much. It's a pretty clean lake.
PCBs, bit of mercury, some kind of dioxin. What? There's got to be something coming out of that mill.
Just the usual trace amounts. Nothing serious.
Come on, Reg. Tell me what's going on.
Look, Tim, this lake's in good shape. Hell, I wouldn't be swimming in it if it was anything but. Come on, relax.
But after that, Reg does go and make another call to his uncle. And when he pulls up, there's another woman in the phone booth, and she's yelling at, I guess, like a boyfriend or husband or somebody because, like, her car's broke down, and she's basically like, I don't need anybody to come help me. I'll figure it out myself. And as she leaves the phone booth, Reg says, like, oh, do you need any help? She's like, are you looking to get slapped? And just walks away. But she walks again and just across the street and sits down on the curb, and the same girl from the previous phone call is still sitting there.
And then the two of them show up later. Too, yeah.
Yep, at the very end, yeah.
They're it's so strange.
So Reg is on the phone with his uncle, and he's basically saying like, look, the lake is real messed up. The fish are horrible. When tourists start coming in, they're gonna know, they're gonna just be catching dead fish or disgusting fish, and we're gonna get in trouble. And the uncle's basically says, just keep faking it. I'll have it done soon. Like, don't worry about it. Just keep us out of jail, and you'll have all the money you could ever hope for, because you'll be taking over the company soon. And it's just basically that. He's saying, I don't really care if we're contaminating. It's gonna happen. And
Free
if I
market
can fix it,
economy,
I'll
baby.
fix it.
Free market economy, baby.
Well, yeah, and that's something Willie T talked about too, like earlier about like capitalism. You know, where he's like, I'll sell this place. I don't really care if the money's right. I'll sell it.
He said I love that exchange. He says something like, "It's a capitalist market, and the economy speaks." And then Reggie says to him, "Here's $5. Fill up my gas tank."
Yeah.
It was a great little back and forth, little tit for tat.
And that's probably why he went back with the 69 gum. It was almost like a little battle between the two of them.
Yeah, that was a good one. Oh, this movie.
Yeah, so he gets, Reg is going to keep doing what he's doing, but based off of Tim's kind of accusation that he's lying about what's going on, Tim is seen on a boat. He pulls in another dead fish, looks at it, kind of rips some of the guts out and puts it in a bag, and then he takes his own water sample to send to the city for testing. Which apparently just anybody can do.
Nail it.
And everybody knows where it goes and everything.
The address.
You just write on the outside of the box, the city, and they'll know what to do with this water vial.
Pike guts.
Attached is the baggie of fish guts. Test, please.
Now we get another comedy scene where we have our Hong Kong businessmen kind of just sitting on the end of a dock.
I love the scene.
And the one guy's still sunning himself, and the other guy kind of stands up and starts doing like Tai Chi on the dock.
Yeah,
and,
hardcore stereotyping going on. But
the music choices.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, all right. Yeah.
It's like a South Park scene. It's kind of gross, but it's also pretty funny. And these two guys ham it up really well.
They're all in.
Yeah. So he falls in the water somehow, and gets attacked by the fish, and he's killed. And we don't see too much there, but the other guy gets up and then starts like doing these like really poor karate stances and just like very stereotypically like yelling. And you just see the fish kind of jumping all around him. And by jumping, I obviously mean it's like a puppet that's just being thrown in front and behind and everything. But it's really, really funny. And I guess at one point the fish does get up and bites onto his arm.
Yeah,
I think it's his arm. Is that what happens? Yeah, he bites on his arm and just rips the guy's arm off. So they ultimately, both of those guys are now killed and will not be buying Willie T's land.
Man,
I'll have to say. Oh, go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
I was gonna reiterate that I love that scene. I think it's one of my favorites. It's hilarious. It's well done. It's totally campy. One of the investors is this guy Mike Chow. So they're both stuntmen apparently, and he actually surprisingly was in a handful of famous movies. So he's in RoboCop, the 2014 version, Pacific Rim, and then he was a temple monk in Bulletproof Monk.
No way, huh?
So after our Hong Kong businessmen are murdered by the fish, we go back to the cottage, and Reg is kind of working on his mapping with the samples because he's supposed to mark where he's taking samples and what the results are. And Dara kind of comes up and is asking him questions and everything, and there's that sexual tension again, and they're just about to kiss when Tim wakes up and walks back into the room, and so that kind of fades off. We see that something's going on there, and now it's another scene where it's just weird, because Willie T's kind of just walking along the road, and this German tourist comes out of nowhere, and he's just like,
I noticed you have a, how do you say, outhouse.
Yes, but I'm sorry. That's my own personal outhouse, and I don't let anyone else use it.
No, thank you. I was wondering if I could take a photo of it.
You want a picture of my shit house?
Scheißehausen. Das ist good, yeah? Yeah, I'm traveling this big world of ours, photographing all different kinds of toilets. And I was wondering if I could take one of your shit houses.
The worst German accent ever. It's great.
Seriously, the most Canadian German you've ever seen.
So he goes into the outhouse. As he opens the door, he kind of is like, you see him look a little puzzled, and he walks in, and at that time Reg pulls up to mail more samples, and Willie T goes and gets the results that have come back for him, and he brings it out, and Willie T kind of asks him about, like, well, how's the contamination in the lake? And Reg basically says, like, oh, it's fine, nothing crazy. And Willie T pretty much says, well, I opened your mail and I know it's really bad, and I know you're how he knows all this, but he basically says, like, I know you're filling up the things with spring water, you're faking it, the government doesn't take too kindly to, like, people that are hurting the environment, and he basically blackmails him and says, well, I'll sit on this information if you guys pay me a boatload of money, and I won't go to the town meeting tomorrow night and kind of rat you out. So Reg says, all right, I'll call my uncle and I'll see what I can do.
And again, Willie T is an asshole. Everybody in this movie is an asshole. He's willing to sell out the health of the town and the lake for money.
Mm-hmm.
So even the guy that I like the most in the movie is still an asshole who's willing to screw people over for cash. After they're finished talking, in the background, the German guy comes out of the outhouse, like, smoking a cigarette. Did you guys notice that? Like,
well, no, he to me,
he had like
he looked very disheveled.
He had like post-coital vibes going on. It looked like he just like got down and dirty inside the outhouse, and he's coming out smoking a cigarette, kind of walking slow and loose. Again, like I think they coded. It's interesting. They code the German guy and Willie T. The way I interpret it, they kind of code them as gay, and that this is like an exchange the two of them are doing, whatever. But the movie, and the way they depict these two, they're seen as like silly people and stuff like that. And our heroes like are homophobic. They're vocally homophobic at one point. And by the end of the movie actually kind of has like a little redemption arc for the oddballs and outcasts, which I guess we can get to at the end. It's just like a weird kind of like cognitive dissonance about like the role of social outcasts and the way we depict them in movies. It's really strange. Sorry, that's a weird aside, but yeah, the German guy definitely jerked off in the shithouse.
See, I thought when he came out, I thought he was traumatized by what he sees. Now, we don't know what's in there yet.
Oh, well, somebody else watched this and tell us, did you see trauma like Greg, or did you see somebody that just jerked it like Dan?
Yeah. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
I mean,
maybe.
I heard a lot of
I
heard a lot of flies when he opened it, so I was like, oh, it's just nasty. But then
that's what I
in
thought.
Context of what you find out later.
Let's not.
We'll get there.
Maybe,
we'll get there.
Maybe
we'll
not.
Get there.
You know. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is nasty.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get there. But so let's move on. So Reg goes and calls his uncle and basically says, like, Willie T's blackmailing me. What are we gonna do about it? And the uncle basically says, like, well, go talk to my guy and he'll get it figured out or something like that. And Reg ultimately ends up talking to somebody, and my first watch, I didn't know who this guy was. It's the sheriff, right? He goes and talks to the
guy
sheriff,
sharpening the chainsaw,
who's out of uniform.
Oh,
yeah, I'm
shit.
pretty sure that's the sheriff.
That makes so much more sense.
I thought it was a random mill worker, but that makes
me too.
Here's my problem with this movie is that sheriff is so nondescript that I didn't really recognize him outside of the outside of like his uniform.
They need to show him in the uniform.
But because he's not in the movie enough, my brain just kept thinking that the sheriff was M. Emmett Walsh from like Blood Simple.
Yeah,
like,
dude. Yeah.
And he plays a sheriff in Critters, so my brain is just like, oh, every old man sheriff is M. Emmett Walsh.
I love Emmett Walsh. Yeah, that would have elevated this movie.
Can we like crowdfund a remake of this movie where we just cast them with Coen Brothers actors? That'd be great. Let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is when you mentioned Tim Blake Nelson,
that's right.
I was just like, oh yeah, I thought this guy was Emmett Walsh.
Nice.
Either way, so yeah, he's basically goes to the sheriff and says, Willie T's blackmailing me. We got to do something. And he basically the sheriff says,
I know Willie T better than the inside of my mouth. That boy'll never keep quiet. Don't worry. I'll take care of him.
What do you plan on doing?
I know his habits well. One big scare will take care of him.
So that's set up.
Man, I did not pick up that was the sheriff. That's cool.
Yeah, nice. Good thinking.
No, that was on the second watch. I was like,
well, I was
is
actually
this
like,
guy?
yeah, I wrote it. Like, I just wrote random guy mill worker. So yeah, it's cool.
That makes a lot of sense for the rest of the movie too. Like the reveal.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, oh man, listeners, I hope that tension's building. I hope you're excited to see where this goes.
Because there's twists and turns.
Oh yeah, there aren't.
There's a big one. There's a big one right now.
So Tim and Dara are now on the boat, and Tim confides to her that, like, hey, I think Reg is lying. I think this lake is polluted. I think the mill's doing it, and Dara basically is just like, you just think this because he's dating Rhonda. She left you. Like, get over it. If he's your best friend, quit like digging around and trying to find things. And she says something like, he says like, well, I sent out my own water sample. I'm gonna find out. And she goes, well, have you gotten it back yet? And he goes, no. And I like where she's basically like,
do yourself a favor and don't pick them up.
At this point, it's just the story of their like dying friendship.
Yeah, totally,
and it's interesting.
Oh, also, you know what? That's an irredeemable moment for Dara, the one that I thought maybe could get out of all this unscathed, but no, she tells him to not second guess the scumbag that's polluting the lake. Everybody's an asshole.
Well, no, because I think she doesn't think that the lake is polluted. Like, she doesn't have. The
other guy presents pretty good evidence. He presents pretty good evidence. Like the fish are sick, and yeah, and didn't they? No, Rhonda was the one that was puking. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
everybody's playing everybody else in this movie.
Either way, she's trying to convince him to be a good friend and not, think that his best friend is shitty. But now he's told her what he had done. So after that scene,
I like how we made this movie into like The Sting. Like there's like multiple double crosses and everything's like
there totally are,
and it kind of is confusing that way, like trying to figure it out. So
everybody's allegiances shift like two to the left. It's really strange. Yeah,
but this is like when the movie ramps up. Almost. Well, yeah. So after that scene, we kind of cut back to Willie T's garage, and a customer kind of pulls up. I don't know if we know this guy or not. I had no idea who it is. But he pulls up and he needs gas, and Willie T's not there.
It's nighttime.
So he hears I think he hears like a beeping. He either has to use the bathroom and goes in the outhouse, or he hears a beeping coming from the outhouse.
Greg. I'm sorry. It's called a shithouse. So you're gonna have to call it a shit
outhouse.
Be Canadian.
Yeah, or Scheisehausen is also
either
fine.
Canadian or German.
He goes in. he goes into the Scheisehausen and opens the door, and he all along the walls are just like
it's gay porn,
ripped out pages from like gay porn magazines, and also a like Polaroid of the ballet boy.
That's right. The cousin of the guy. Yes.
Which was really weird. And I forget what he makes a comment, something like, This boy's not right in the head, or something like that. But he lifts up the toilet seat, and there's a bomb in there.
We get a POV from the poop hole.
That's right. Yes, it's a camera angle of the lid of the toilet opening to reveal his
like
face.
He's looking directly down into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bomb, and so I guess the sheriff just straight up planned to just kill Willie T. And the bomb explodes, blows up the Scheisehausen and the gas station, and everything's in rubble. It was the big action set piece for this movie.
It was an impressive explosion that was shot well. They did it at night, so it looked fucking huge. And two, I remember when he was, now that I realize it's the sheriff, I remember when he was talking to like random mill worker number 3 sharpening an axe blade or whatever he was doing. When he says, like, we need to send a message to Willie T, and his answer was like, oh, I know how to send messages, and like we'll only have to tell him once, or something like that. And
he says like, I know his habit.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember thinking like, oh, this guy's gonna fucking kill him, but I didn't think he was gonna blow his house up like that. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, it was a big surprise to me too. I was like, whoa! It felt like it was out of a different movie. I mean, it was like a cool, unexpected thing.
Kind of like Kingdom of the Spiders, when the plane crashes into the gas station, and you're like, holy shit, they just did that. That's great. Yeah, this movie has that moment in it.
Yeah. So it does kind of hit like a high point right there, and kind of drops a little bit, slows down for just one scene or so. because we're back at the lake at the cottage, and Reg is just swimming in the contaminated water at night, and Dara comes in and strips down. So like you were just saying how Dara's like, oh, this is where she's a bad guy. It's like, I think this is where it is, because now she's going skinny dipping with just her, just Reg, and they make out a bit, I believe.
She has
and then
intent.
She swims off.
Yeah.
But you hear a lot of big splashes and things going on, which we know is Psycho Pike. You don't see it at all, and Reg doesn't know what happens, but she just kind of disappears, and he just kind of shrugs it off and just goes back in the house and goes to bed. And the next morning, Tim is basically like, oh, like, has anybody seen Dara? I didn't see her this morning, and I don't know where she is. And Reg is like, maybe she went for a walk or went into town, but her clothes are still on the dock, so she never got out of that water. And like I said, we pretty much know what happens. You don't see it, but so she's been murdered. And now Tim is thinking, oh no, I told her that I am kind of going behind Reg's back, sent my water sample. She might have told him, and he killed her or did something to her. So now he's freaking out. He drives out to find the sheriff, who's sleeping in his car, and tells him what's going on. And the sheriff
what does it do when he pulls up?
He farts. One hour and 14 minutes into the movie, there's another cop fart. Check it out.
In like the peak of like there's motivation for him to find his dead, like presumably dead friend who his other friend might have murdered, and then what do? It's like cartoony fart noises.
Yeah, I rewound it. I was
was
like, what? Was that a soundtrack flub? Nope.
It's such a fucking weird choice. It's such a weird choice.
Bellowing cop fart.
Yeah, so he gets the cop, kind of is scared about what's going on. He's telling him everything, like,
something's going on. My friend is supposed to be testing the water, and I know for a fact he's changing the results. The only other person I've told has disappeared. I think he may have done something.
The cop basically says, like, well, we found a body last night. I'll take you, like, if you don't mind, I can take you to the body, and you can identify it if it's your girlfriend. And so they kind of drive off into the. So when this this scene happens, they're walking through the woods to where the body is, and my brain goes, I don't think the cops would just leave a body out in the woods for no reason. Seems like a really backwards thing to do, but it makes sense because he leads them out to like this body, uncovers it, and basically says, like, do you see what happens when you mess with the mill? So the cop is on the mill side. The cop is covering up for the mill.
Now, take a good long look, boy. Now, this is what happens to people who interfere with the mill.
Which, again, at this point now we know, because he's the one that set the bomb up. But if you didn't recognize that was the cop, this is when it kind of happens. When you're like, oh, there's a big twist here.
I think you're better at watching movies than I am. I was totally lost as to like why the cop was doing what he was doing up until like earlier tonight when you said, oh, that was the cop that blew up the house. Like, okay, yes, you're right. Once you realize that, the cop's motivations make a lot more sense.
Yeah, he's on the payroll of the mill.
Totally.
You know,
the whole time I'm thinking, how did the Pike become a Psycho Pike?
He played violent video games.
Right.
That's what happened. So the cop basically says, like, this is, if you mess with the mill, you're messing with the town, you're messing with me, and I'm going to kill you, and you're going to be just like this guy on the ground. And I'm pretty sure the dead body in the woods is the ballet boy. Who he like comforted at the fire at the gas station explosion.
Oh,
I didn't notice that.
Oh wow, I have to rewatch that.
Huh.
Oh.
I think so. Like, there's about 7 characters in this movie, so I don't see why they would pull a random dead body if it didn't mean anything.
Because otherwise, it's like a brown-haired person. I really couldn't tell.
They were kind of gray and like. So wait a minute. So Dara did get killed by the Pike. And then once he revealed that he knew the contamination scheme, then he took him out to the woods to do a little. Yeah. All right, that makes sense. All right, cool.
Yeah, this movie, there's no
problems. No, it's tight. It's airtight.
Clearly,
it's airtight.
Yeah. Yep. They figured it out.
Yeah.
How did that Pike get psycho? No, keep going.
Yeah, he listened to heavy metal.
That was
the
it.
problem.
Yeah, I think he played
Norwegian Black
So
Sabbath.
yeah,
played
the
Dungeons
cop.
and Dragons.
Yeah, there's so many reasons. Yeah, so the cop handcuffs him to a tree and is about to shoot him, but Tim kind of fights back slightly and makes the cop like slip and I guess shoot himself. You hear the gun fire and the cop just lays
He
there.
like pinches his heel. He like pinches his Achilles heel and he passes out from it.
Yeah, it's.
I think he shot himself. I think he ended up killing himself.
I mean, I think you're right.
Right?
I think that's what the
Okay.
that's
That's what I
probably
took
what the
from
screenplay says, but it's not what the director showed us.
I just saw some leg pulling.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well,
all they
either
needed
way,
was to like throw in just a little cutaway of the sheriff's head hitting a rock, and it would have just solved all their problems. But instead, you just see a big fat dude fall on the ground in the woods and never move again. I guess he just decided to live there.
He did fall on his back and like a turtle. You can't get back up. So.
I can't not picture Emmett Walsh in this role now. I just that's
I know,
in my
right?
head. You know.
Yeah. He would have been perfect. So yeah, Tim does kind of get the handcuff keys out of his pocket and escapes from the woods. And then he comes back to the house. And Reg and Rhonda are in the boat. And Tim is kind of yelling for Rhonda to get away because at this point, Tim now basically knows like Reg is a bad guy. He still thinks that he killed Rhonda, or I'm sorry, Dara at this point, which he didn't. But he knows that he's garbage. He's a garbage boy, and so he gets in another boat and starts going out to them. And at that time, the Psycho Pike jumps up out of the water and just latches on Reg's throat. And just like slices his throat open, and it's
best
awesome.
gore effect in the movie.
It's really well done.
Yeah.
Dude, slices. He pulls the front of his neck off. Like it's gruesome. It's it's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. And Rhonda is freaking out, and Tim says like, get out of the boat, come over to me. She jumps in the water. Tim jumps in the water. They both get back to the to the other boat, and the Psycho Pike's coming after them, and it starts like chewing on the motor, the propellers, and they start it up, and they drive over the Psycho Pike. Now, this is my one complaint with this movie is that they kill the Pike too easily. Because they just kind of run it over once or twice and hit it with the propeller, and
I had the same note.
There's really no like big climactic battle with the mutant fish.
Yeah,
I had the same note.
Really, if they had named this movie something else, that wouldn't disappoint me as much. But just the fact that Psycho Pike is the name of the movie, I was expecting like 2 or 3 more gore shots of the quality of that amazing throat ripping.
Yes.
Would have really just sealed the deal. Would have really locked this in as something special.
The thing that I thought was effective was they showed this like half underwater shot of it moving quickly, and it was just like the side of the fish, and it would just like zoom past the camera. You know what I'm talking about? Like you wouldn't see the head or the tail. It just like, and you just see the scales real close. It was like, whoom. And that was really cool. But yeah, I wanted more. It's great. Don't get me wrong. We'll get in the reviews. But I wanted more Psycho Pike.
The underwater. Now that you mention it, it did remind me a bit of some of Tintoretto's like shark attack photography, where it was more about. It was more about seeing the object like skirt past the camera than about actually trying to get a view of it or something like that. And the water was really murky and dirty. Yeah,
This is
it's
creepy.
great.
Even like the jumping sounds, that's scary. Like if you're out with no clothes in the middle of a lake and you hear like something that's 30 to 40 pounds jumping around you, splashing, like that could be pretty freaking scary. Like it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Nature's creepy.
I guess in the long run, it's a mutant fish, but it's still a fish, and you can kill it with a propeller, and that's just what happened. But so that they kill the fish, and it's not quite the end of the movie. We have our 2 phone booth girls who are on the curb, and now joined by the German tourist, are walking down the road together for some reason, and they come across Willie T's old building, and out of the rubble rises Willie T, who is still alive. And that was pretty great. It was good to see him, even though he's shitty, still alive. And Rhonda and Tim seem to be back together as a couple.
In the weirdest twist of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, because both of their significant others were murdered by a killer fish, and they're just like, well, guess we're
stuck
back. This
together
is
now.
what's happening.
I got my...
The same day of the
they
murder.
show
Yeah,
up.
she was like, I got my old partner back.
Yeah, because they show up to Willie T's, who doesn't have gas anymore, so I don't really understand stopping there. But, you know, the Willie T and the three minor characters that we mentioned are trying to clean up the rubble, and he's got new partners, and they're all helping out, and Rhonda and Tim wish him luck, and then drive off in the sunset.
Just wanted to wish you good luck with the reconstruction.
Why, thank you. I even got myself some new partners.
And I got my old partner back.
Had enough fishing for a while?
Yeah. You did say the fishing was good on Chippewa.
Why, yes, I most certainly did.
Good luck.
Take care.
That closing moment where you see Willie T and the two women from the phone booth like rebuilding the gas station was the moment where I was the two women in the phone booth were both having conversations about, like, weren't they both kind of like women being like, I don't need a man, kind of?
Yeah.
And then they end up with Willie T. Like, the three of them are all these social outcasts who are now like, I guess we'll rebuild our lives together. And they go off. It's almost kind of a happy ending for them, in a way. Like, I like that, like, the misfits banded together by the end. Even though the two phone booth women were, like, super, like, one-scene characters. I like that they all ended up together and okay. That was nice. It was a good little happy ending.
Yeah, everybody ended up okay at the end.
Yeah, I like to see it like a spin-off with the three of them, like how they rebuild their gas station. So there's also this guy, Red. Did you notice this? Like, they threw him in at the end as like a cameo.
Yeah, he basically is Willie T. Says that the fish are pretty rough out here, right? And then he responds about, I've seen worse or something.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I guess he's this like local, legendary Canadian sportsman. So he had a TV show called The Red Fisher Show about fishing and hunting. So they threw him on as like a little call out to his. So if you weren't a local, you wouldn't know what it is. So yeah.
You know, that's another thing I thought about when this movie ended was the start of the movie sets it up totally pun intended. It's supposed to be like a fish out of water movie with the city slickers coming to like kick it in the woods with all the like yokels in the mountains and, you know, hang out on a lake and fish or whatever. But as the movie plays out, like, you find out that the one guy's uncle runs the mill that's like right there. That's like, you can see it from the building, and his cousin lives in the town there, and everybody kind of knows each other. And it almost feels like the people that are vacationing there are locals who maybe were at college and like are coming back for the summer, and everybody in town knows each other. Like, the whole movie has this like vibe of a small town drama. By the end of it, which I thought was really interesting, where if it's not about vacationing people being murdered and then escaping a cabin in the woods, it's actually about people who've outgrown their hometown, coming home, finding it kind of the same, it changing them, and then they get like back into the world. It's like it kind of switched genres in retrospect in my mind in a weird way, which not a lot of movies do, and I dig that. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but I like how that ended up.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Interesting. All right, yeah, so that was 1992 Psycho Pike, a movie that was barely ever released, never had distribution, and you can find a screener copy on YouTube while it's still up. So let's get in the ratings.
Time for the ratings.
So now it's time for ratings on this podcast, Stabby Stabby. We give movies 0 out of 10 stabs. Stabs being something we do affectionately. So the more stabs, the better. Hey, Eric, how many stabs would you give this movie?
I'm gonna go with a 6 on this one. Like I mentioned before, I fished for pike. I think I've been to Ontario. I guess I felt like I had a little connection with the movie, like right off the bat. It was cool. Yeah. I think it was heavy on the comedy elements. I think there were some really fun sequences. It moved along briskly. Willie T was pretty great. I wish there was a higher quality version, honestly. Like, I wish somebody would get the original negative, scan this at like 4K and release it properly. But I could see this being like a summer kind of cult fun watch. And I just thought it was really fun. So I give it a solid 6.
Greg, what do you think?
I really, really enjoyed this movie. Way more than I thought I would. Like I said, I had watched it before and didn't really think much of it. But watching it this time, paying attention to everything, seeing how it was made, following along with the story, I had so much fun. I remember halfway in, or like half an hour into the movie, I texted you guys going like, I love this movie. It's really good. I would give it 7.5 stabs.
Whoa, boy,
nice.
That's the most stabs so far. Awesome. All right.
I had so much fun. I thought the movie has problems. The acting's not amazing. I liked the little twists that it had. It told a small story in a big way. Like, this story involved 7 people, like there wasn't much to it, but it felt like there were stakes. It built it well enough. And I don't know. I would absolutely love for people to see this movie and watch this movie and have it released in a proper format. Because I do think this can be just a like Eric said, like a big new cult following film, because it was, I don't know. I would happily watch this one again.
I agree with you. I'm going to say 6.5. No, I'm going to say 6 stabs. I think I'm going to stick right with Eric. Although the way you're talking about it, Greg, makes me want to bump it up more. I was really torn about how high to go with it. It wasn't a question of how low. It's a question of how high. I really like this movie a lot. I'm right on there, right on board with all of you guys. This is a movie where I feel like I could throw this on a Sunday afternoon and just have it rolling in the background and just pay attention to the scenes that I like and let the other ones wash over me like an oscillating fan. Oh man, it's such a good movie. I really dig the shit out of it. I'm thrilled that we picked like a lesser known movie that none of us were excited to watch, and it turned out to be like kind of great.
Same.
Go out there and watch. Yeah. Go out there and watch Psycho Pike. The whole thing is free on YouTube. Just, you owe it to yourself. Just go out there and watch it. Put it on. Watch it. It's great.
Yeah, I would always recommend people buy movies. Obviously, this is not available.
You can't find it anywhere. It's
else.
Just this copy on YouTube. That's it. Which is like kind of part of the appeal, right? The fact that hardly anybody else has seen this movie is kind of, and it's also great. It's so rare in these cult circles at this point. Now that people have been watching these for so long, like, I can't believe there are still movies like this popping up.
Oh, I totally agree. It's like that one friend that would just show up with like a weirdo VHS, and you'd watch and be like, holy shit, and then you couldn't find it anywhere. But I think it has that appeal to it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Greg. Like, Vinegar Syndrome or somebody needs to pick this up and get a good quality like scan of it. But it was a fun flick. It was a lot of fun. I really liked it a lot. I'm glad it exists. Thank you, Canada.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for recommending, Greg.
Hey, no problem.
So I think that about wraps up this episode of Stabby Stabby and our friend Psycho Pike. Yeah, it's what a weird little movie. You can find, if you want to check out anything Dan related, you can find me on Instagram at DanYowell_art. I don't follow anybody, and I only post every once in a while, and it's weird. I also stream sometimes on Burgertown Break Room. Eric, where can I find you online other than Pornhub?
You can find me at erichokinson.com. Extremely outdated. I need to update that at some point in time. But that's my location.
Please never update it. Yeah. I just like hearing you say that.
I say it each time. Like, it's on my to-do list, but at this point,
don't do it. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we'll just leave it out.
I haven't updated my shit in ages either.
We'll just leave it out there. It's fine. But that's it for me. How about yourself, Greg?
You can find me on Instagram at at Mallupo, MAL_LUPO. I don't really post as much anymore because I'm busy doing the podcast's Instagram page, which you should follow us at StabbyPod, STABBYPOD. Also, rate and review us. I don't think we've ever said this before. So like, if apparently I don't know much about podcasting. Obviously, we're doing this because talking about movies is fun, but it can help. So if you could go and give us a review wherever you listen. I don't really know how that works. I use Apple Podcasts, so but yeah, if you could do that, that'd be awesome. And also,
Greg's gonna spend like 4 hours editing this shit. You can spend 5 minutes right now and go review it. Make Greg happy. Come on, give us 5. Don't hit some. Hit all 5 of the stars.
Yeah, this is
leave a review.
For me, this is like pandemic therapy. Like, we would just do this at the bar anyway, just bullshit and drink and talk movies. So it's nice if folks are actually listening, which would be even like super cool. But and if you are, please take the time to comment or suggest the movie that's totally freaking insane, and we will go watch it and review it, because we're always looking for new stuff. So
yeah, let us know on Instagram, because I don't check anything else. We have a Twitter. I've never used it.
Come run our Twitter for us. I don't want any part of that shit.
Just comment on a post and say, hey, you should watch whatever weird bullshit you know, because we definitely want to, the more obscure the better. We don't necessarily really want to be reviewing all the time movies that everybody has already talked about. That's why I was kind of excited to talk about Psycho Pike. I looked it up. It looked like about 4 other podcasts talk about it, which ain't a lot, because there are a lot of horror movie podcasts out there. If you got anything, let us know, and we will we'll shout you out on the podcast.
And as we bid you adieu, I hope you enjoy the sultry sounds of the 90s intro track to Psycho Pike. Thank you all so much for listening, and I guess we'll see you in a week when we're going to talk about what we're going to watch next.
Bye.
Bye.
Love
you.